you're on your way, like I'm on my way, like I'm on my way. Get it off your chest, what you got to say, what you got to say. That you're on your way, like I'm on my way, like I'm on my way. Get it off your chest, what you got to say. I'm on my way. I'm on my way. This is the day that I'm on my way. Nothing can hold you back. Aim for the stars. Got to believe, baby, in who you are. You're on the path to glory. You're on the road.
Hello and welcome everybody to Teamfight Talkshow. I am DoA, that's right. Here we are back with another week. My co-host Frodan here as always. But today is a very special day because we are joined by two of the wonderful people that actually work on the game, that actually make teamfight tactics from Riot Games. We have Chloe and Lynda. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll go down the line. We'll see how everybody's doing. We'll start with my co-host Frodan here. How's it going?
Hey Noah, it's going great. As you can tell, I'm not on my usual setup. I look pretty different. I'm currently actually borrowing Hafu and Dog setup. I'm in Vegas right now, hanging out with some TFT influencers and one or two competitive players. So I'm here for the week, and I'm ready to talk some TFT.
All right, you're just living and breathing TFT right now. I guess all of us really are on this show at the moment. But Chloe, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Doing excellent.
All right, and oh yeah, great. Hopefully you can see the camera okay. But then we have Lynda at the far end. How are you today?
Hi, I'm doing great too. Yeah, I'm not in my usual setup, which is at my desk. I went to the office today and hung out with some TFT devs, and then came back.
Damn.
I know.
So Lynda starts off by bragging to everyone. Okay, yeah. That's cool. All right, so let's get into this. Let's learn a little bit about Chloe and Lynda here. So you are both, if I am reading this correctly, you are both tech designers on the game. So there's a lot of roles as far as like what goes into making a video game. So why don't one of you describe what exactly a tech designer does? We'll ask Chloe first, and then if Lynda totally disagrees, then you can say your piece too.
A tech designer brings expertise in both game design and engineering to the table, and then hopefully much of the time they are, at least in some amount, using both of those kinds of expertise to do their work. We're designers first. We're game designers before we are engineers.
Okay.
Yeah. We do a lot of trying desperately to keep people from implementing things in messy ways, and then they do it anyway, and then we have to go fix it.
All right, interesting. Go ahead, Dan.
Can you go ahead, Alice, or go ahead, Lynda. Sorry.
I think like the main thing that tech designers really contribute to design is we try to open up like a lot of design space. So thinking back on stuff that Chloe and I have worked on, it's like we did Nico's in the system. We did the whole we implemented like the functionality of pretty much the loot orb, which is what, loot comes from, chests come from, a lot of that stuff comes from. We set up initial prototypes for stuff like giving multiple traits onto a champion. We did, I think, placeables was done in set 4, first with the Zir soldiers, and then later on, the pick 3 stuff. I know Chloe did a lot of help with like the pick 3 stuff in set 5 that eventually led to Augments. So we're actually just trying to create these like spaces that design can explore and, play around in.
All right.
We also sometimes identify those tech spaces that happen to exist already, and we kind of let the other designers know, like, hey, we have the capability of doing this thing already. Wouldn't it be cool if we did this, as opposed to asking engineering to implement a whole new other thing?
So if TFT is the car, you're the people putting like the spoilers and the extra cool tires on it and stuff, and like the neat wraps. You're the people sort of like saying, we've got this base thing, let's find other things to implement into it that makes it like even cooler, right? Am I getting that correctly?
I don't know anything
Am I
about
not getting
cars.
that correctly? Okay, that's bad news. All right, well, see ya. It's been a good show.
I don't know. I just want to also say, like, we do a lot of that, like, how can we make new technology create a new thing for other designers to use? Mm-hmm. But we also do, like, we decide what Senna does.
Okay.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
All right.
Can you go a little bit more in depth? Let's say there's people who watch the show or listen to it, and they also want to explore similar career prospects. What are some of like the technical things that they would have to learn or acquire skill-wise in order to even apply and not be laughed out the door?
Yeah. So I went to school for computer science engineering, and I first started in the industry. Well, technically first started in QA, but I first really started as an engineer and then moved to tech design. One thing about the like engineer to tech design path being available is that since engineering is more objective, there is, I think, not through anybody's fault, less like bias involved in trying to get in the door as an engineer. Which I think is part of why tech design is a little bit more diverse than
Sure. Makes sense.
Okay.
other design fields.
I think,
All right.
Yeah, I think for me, I also have an engineering degree, and I came into tech design because I originally applied to Riot as an engineering intern many, many years ago, and they were like, well, you applied too late, so, you know, but we see that you've done like a lot of these game design projects at your school, so why don't you give this design thing a try? And so I was a design intern.
This design thing.
Yeah. And then during the period of like being a design intern, I had like code withdrawals. I was like, let me code. And they're like, okay. So then I became a tech designer because they were like, oh, we have this role, and we actually have this great mentor, Raina Sweet, who like was kind of like our queen of tech design. This is her actual title.
Is present tense. She's still around.
Yeah. Okay. And so that's how I got into tech design. And I think like one of the things that I think like a really good suggestion if you want to get into tech design, I would highly recommend an engineering degree. Like those are pretty good in general. And just like try doing some design, try thinking about it. And I think one of the things that tech designers moving from engineering to design actually, in my opinion, like require work on is like trying to get things to feel good, because sometimes we're so caught up in like, oh, this thing needs to be like perfect and this system needs to do everything, and then we're like, one-off special casing is a sin. But as like a designer, you're like, no, this one-off special casing, this weird like small thing where we delay this thing by like 0.25 seconds and like have the special magic number here actually makes this champion feel really good. So let's just try to keep those two things in check.
Interesting. I mean, it sounds like I always like to equate things to art and stuff. It sounds like a painting or editing a movie or something like that, that the job is never truly done, but you have to get to a point, whether that's in a patch or like a bigger release, where you just have to let it out the door and say like, all right, well, we're satisfied with this at least, right? All right, cool. Well, there's a lot more we can dig into here, and we definitely will, but before we go any further, Frodan, we've got some augments for chat to choose from. So let's check those out. As usual, why don't you take us through our 3 options for today?
All right. So again, for people who are not familiar, or maybe this is the first episode they tuned in, at the beginning of the show, in the theme of gizmos and gadgets and very soon Neon Nights, we are giving an augment choice, but this time to the viewers. And so we give 3 choices where you will be voting on in the chat via polls for those who are watching and tuning in live. So these options that we have for this episode is, the first is Exiles, which is we're going to mute someone of chat's choice for 2 minutes in the show. I don't know when, but we will eventually decide that. Option 2 is Unstable Evolution, where the hosts use a voice changer for 5 minutes. In which case, I apologize, dog, ahead of time for installing software on your computer. So we have to end up figuring out how that works. And the third is Scholar Heart, where both hosts and the guest share a historical fact. Which, in this case, we have two guests. We have Chloe and Lynda, so we're going to incorporate both of them. And so you can vote in chat right now based on whatever you feel like is the option that you want. Do you choose something that's a little bit fun? Do you choose something really disruptive and chaotic? It's entirely your choice.
Yep, that's right. So we've got a little bit longer to go on that for the voting in chat, so definitely go do that. You know, you've noticed we've brought some of them back from week to week. Our rule kind of here is if an augment doesn't get picked, then we'll, you know, bring it back in future weeks, just so we kind of have a chance to go through everything. We've got a big document of augments that we're regularly adding to and all that kind of thing. So while we wait, and it looks like we're about like, is that like half over with the vote? I can't tell with a little purple bar or whatever. But while we wait, oh, never mind. We actually have our one chosen, and it's going to be Scholar Heart. Interesting. I was expecting the voice changing one to get picked, frankly, but I like this. I like really historical facts.
I don't want to install stuff. I don't want to actually install malware onto Dog's PC.
I feel like Hafu's just like calling Dog. He's like, Dog, you need to log on and vote right now.
It's like the next day, like his voice on stream sounds like a robot or something like that. Yeah.
That's right. Or like a little
Can't
baby.
figure out how to turn it off.
That's just Discord every other day, though. You know. Yeah. So we'll get to that a little bit later in the show. So you have some time, Chloe and Lynda, to think up what your historical fact is going to be. Frodan as well, I suppose. We'll come back to that. We'll circle back around to it a little bit later. But for now, let's talk about some news. And so while everybody is in the 6.5 waiting room, I know I've been for a while already, but there is a patch for live going out right now. It's patch 12.3, a little tweaking sort of patch, it seems like. A little bit of a buff to Socialite, Sunfire, Thrill the Hunt. Some things got adjusted, some things got nerfed. Frodan, have you been playing really any live since mid-set ended? Do you have any reactions at all to this patch? Because I don't. I haven't touched the game since PBE came out on live.
Yeah, so this is the part where I admit that my ego will not let me not finish, or at least not try to push for challenger rank to finish the set. So actually, I've been playing mainly live. Whenever I watch content, I've been watching Neon Knights. So I've been seeing, I'm pretty familiar with the new set. I've been actually, you know, like co-oping with some of my friends as well on PBE. But in terms of whenever I play, I'm playing live right now because I'm kind of a degenerate. I just keep playing TFT.
I respect that. I respect
this
that.
is the patch that was played on mid-set. The biggest change, I think, is that Ancient Archives is now a silver augment. And so for a lot of people who really like to get those extra emblems, particularly the Innovator emblem is now very readily available at 1.4, a pretty decent amount of time. It's not, you can't guarantee it, but with the tome changes, you do get to manipulate the odds. Innovators are very strong. So a lot of people like to play around that and flex around the AP tree. Or you can just kind of play a little bit around the AD items. I think a lot of people were worried that Runa's Hurricane nerf would make AD unplayable, right? That's the overreaction that almost every player has when they nerf it by 5%. Runa's is still perfectly fine. And it's, you know, I think that's one thing that's pretty interesting too, is that some augments that we really underestimate, like Shrug It Off, this augment has seen it all throughout all of Gizmos and Gadgets. It actually got nerfed, if anything. Like, it was an augment that people were calling so bad for so long, and now the first patch it goes from gold to silver tier. It actually got nerfed, and for good reason. It was very, very strong early on. Yeah. So I think that, you know, Gizmos and Gadgets taught us so many different interesting specific scenarios in TFT, which makes me really feel like what else do we not understand about the set as we come to a close?
Every TFT set is like that, though. I'm sure we go entire sets with things just never being discovered that maybe the developers of the game know about. And I'm not going to ask them to spill the beans to tell us all the secrets, but I am curious, with patch 12.3, any insight onto this, to the decisions from your perspective? We'll start with you, Chloe.
Lynda, I can't speak for Lynda, actually. I won't try to. But I at least... I totally zone out from like what changes are we making to the like patch to patch while we're working on the next thing, because I can't hold all that stuff in my head at once. But I have still been playing 6.0 on live because I'm trying to get out of gold.
Wow,
you can do it.
So the ambition is still there. That's impressive.
Yeah, but I totally refuse to play a comp that I already know works, which makes it very difficult
I think I can relate to
Oh,
that.
I have some really underground reroll comps if you really want to try them out. I have many stupid ideas. So if you are looking for inspiration,
I have plenty of stupid ideas of my own. Thank you. I appreciate your attempt to donate a new stupid idea, but I'm full. I have too many.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay.
I'll keep my ideas to myself then.
Oh no, share them with me. I'm down for memery.
He'll be in the alley behind the building with like a paper bag with the secret strats in it. Yeah. How about you, Lynda? What's your take on 12.3?
Yeah, kind of similar with Chloe. I've been in kind of 6.5 lane. I just realized that Tome was adjusted, and we did do a recent kind of fix to Tome where it made it less viable for you to kind of like, oh, if I put Lulu in here and this thing in here, then I can pretty much guarantee myself a certain Tome. So that was the only thing I wanted to comment on.
Okay.
And then once we'd... sorry.
No, go ahead.
Once we'd made the change to Tome to make it so that you couldn't like force stuff in by using like Lulu and shit that didn't have like
emblems,
compatible emblem traits.
Right.
It was like, oh, now this thing feels terrible to use and it's really easy to misuse it. We need to make a version of this that doesn't have either problem. And that's how it landed where it is now.
Okay. Interesting. It kind of seems like with a lot of things, like the way Tome operated previously, like at some point the player base will find a way to break it. You know, they'll find a way to exploit it, and then it has to get changed. Like look at like any video game from any era, and people are always trying to find ways to sort of like get through the walls or push outside of the track or something like that. You know, so it seemed inevitable with Tome. You know, so it probably needed to happen. Yeah. All right. Well. Enough of this 6.0 stuff. Let's go to 6.5. That's right, Neon Knights, Gizmos, and Gadgets. I've been playing a lot of this on the PvE, and it is incredibly fun. The thing that I love the most right off the bat about Neon Knights is two things, I guess. One, that there's a ton of new augments to try. The other thing is that a lot of the familiar traits are played in very different ways now. Chemtech jumps to mind as like the one that's the most obvious, where the Chemtech vertical plays totally different than it did in 6.0, but it still feels really satisfying. So it's a lot of fun. But let's go through things kind of step by step here. I think the first thing we're going to look at is the trait overviews, because obviously some things left, some things came back in. Let's see if I can remember everything that left here. We had Imperial Academy, Protector leave, and then we had Sisters change to Rival. We had Hextech and Debonair come in, and then we also had Socialite change in that now there is a 5 Socialite trait that if you can get to it, it doubles the bonuses. Did I hit it all? Did I remember it all?
There's Striker.
Oh, and Striker. I forgot Striker. All right. Well, yeah.
Which I really like Chloe's comment for Striker that they gave. I think it was on Gangly's show. It was on...
Oh, you're talking about what I said to Mort.
Okay, that
All right.
Would you like to share with us?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Mort asked me what Striker did, and I said it saved us time. So that we could implement other, more complicated things.
That's right.
You know, I think every set needs a trait or two like that, you know. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
For us and for players, I think, you know, I was talking to another Rioter over lunch who works on another game, it was like, yeah, you know, the traits and stuff, they're just, so many of them are so complicated now. There's so many things I have to read to feel like I can play the game. And one of the things that we do for those people is to try to make a few things that no need to read. Just, it gives you AD. Don't think about it.
That's good.
It's fine.
Yes, I think it's actually super important. You know, not everything has to be kind of like Enforcer, like just looking at the size of this text box, like Scrap just looks intimidating. It looks like a Yu-Gi-Oh card description, just like there's just lines and lines of text. And sometimes simplicity actually can really surprise you. It even sometimes brings elegance to design, like something that's really straightforward can end up being quite interesting. Like Bruiser, for example, I think one of the more interesting things is that it gives your entire team HP, and there's a lot of applications of that too, like whether or not you're picking, you know, phony frontline and it affects that, or, you know, your innovator buff, and there's little different ways that you can min-max stuff. Even though it's a very simple concept, there's a lot of interesting depth to that. So I think that, you know, sometimes it's really good to try to just keep things very straightforward.
Yeah. Simple, easy to grasp concepts give players the opportunity to, like, quickly understand how to combine those things in a clever way.
Yes. Not to mention that I think flat stats, like straight up attack damage and straight up ability power, is still misunderstood by the player base. So while you might think it's really straightforward, there's still a lot of players misusing these stats and having wrong conclusions from it. So I think even then, there's still like a lot of ways you can separate yourself from having knowledge edges if you specialize in, say, playing like a striker-based composition.
Yep, exactly. The way these stats interact with items specifically, I think, is something that a lot of people understand less than they think. And I'll probably include myself in that too. But it's something to keep in mind. Let's talk about some of the new traits as well. So I know that you were involved in a lot of the hero design, like what Senna does, for instance. I know Chloe obviously was very famously involved in Silco. But as far as the trait side of things go, because we'll get to the champions later, how involved were the two of you in terms of the new traits? Designing those, implementing those, that kind of thing. And we'll go with Lynda first, I guess. Because I said Chloe before, so now Lynda.
I think we did everything. Us and JBock, or Static, as you might know, we actually designed and implemented all of these with kind of like goals in mind.
Okay.
And yeah, I can go into some of them. So I think for Striker, like Chloe said, we wanted to have something that was like pretty easy, but also something that was really exciting. And I think one of the exciting things about Striker is that there's an emblem, and then you're like, oh, my Jhin can be a striker, or like, oh, my Tryndamere can be a striker. And then you have all of these carries that before you were like, okay, you built, you know, your IE, your Last Whispers. You can start thinking about like, okay, maybe I want to put them in like a striker comp. I think for Sisters to Rivals, I think we really wanted that to feel like you had set 6 was like, you know, the beginning of Arcane, but now that you finished watching Arcane is kind of the evolution of that story. So we decided to put some of those little Lord nuggets in there. With Hex Tech, it was we really wanted to tie something into the Hex core, but overall have it be a more entry-friendly trait where you can kind of like toss it in, and then you have units that work really well with it, like Lucian and Sivir. And then with Debonair was the one that we actually had a lot of struggles with trying to get it into a good spot, because our initial iteration of Debonair was like, it was cool, but it wasn't very exciting. And then I think one day JB and I were just sitting there, we were like kind of shooting the shit. And he was like, yeah, it's like, I'm not sure about this thematic. It's really hard to think of like, oh, what do rich people do? I don't know, like, you know, sip wine and shit. I was like, JB, like, you know.
That's about it, yeah. Frodan's one in Vegas right now, ask him, yeah.
One of many things.
I was like, JB, what if you had like a Bachelor or Bachelorette of the Week? Because I think I'd like seen a tweet about like that. And that's how the VIP idea came into.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Once we landed on it, we were like, oh, we got to try this out. This is something new. So I was
great.
really.
That's awesome. All right.
Chloe, did you want to talk about Mastermind in the many
I
iterations?
can talk about Mastermind, but something I want to clarify first. That just in general for 6.5, although like we are tech designers, Lynda is the set lead on the set. So Lynda was the person guiding what are we doing for champions and traits? What is the goal? How, like, what is our approach to switching out champions? All of that. And then I was Lynda's helper, so I was the person being like, let's do a shit ton of work. Haha.
Well, we appreciate it.
No, I feel like I'm the one who's like, let's do a shit ton of work. And I don't know if you guys have seen like the Christine meme where she's like doing this.
We on TFT think this is the best thing ever. But Christine being like, how much we were planning to do, how much we did.
Ah, okay. Well, again, we as the players appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. I just like that Lynda's now being pushed to the forefront. So now, you know, maybe instead of Mortdog, we're yelling Lynda really loudly whenever something at 6.5 happens.
I could see that. Soju being like, Lynda!
Fortunately, if you yell at Lynda, I actually am contractually obligated to fight you. So
well, that just makes it more exciting.
Dicey.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, that just makes 6.5 even more. Yeah, like Lynda's champion. Yeah. Not in a League of Legends sense, I guess. Well,
yes.
let's talk about some augments. Of course, there are many new augments coming in 6.5. Of course, all the ones that dealt with traits that were removed were also removed. But there's a lot of really new fun stuff. I'm actually amazed at like how many different augments are in the set to begin with, and then just how many different parts of gameplay they all touch. Like this, I can't fathom the amount of work it takes and like troubleshooting it takes to get everything working properly. With this set, it really does seem like an insanely like Herculean task to be able to make this all work. So we could talk about some of the augments too, because there's a lot of really cool ones. But I'm more curious about how difficult is it really to implement all of these different things that, like I said, kind of seem to touch like every element of gameplay in TFT. And we'll go with you first, Chloe, on this one.
It is a shit ton of work. I, during set 6, was basically functioning fully in my technical capacity, supporting JBOC on the Augment system. So, like, trying to lay down the groundwork for getting some of these augments working. Lynda also actually set up some of it that we didn't even end up shipping until 6.5. Like, Lynda set up the original implementation of, what's it called? Future Sight?
Future Sight.
Okay.
My favorite.
Yeah.
One of my favorites.
But it's a ton of work, and there's both like the implementation of how each individual augment works or each individual type of augment works, but then there's also the how does the game understand which augments you have and try to like deliver them to you, decide what augments you might want to like not give you built different when you already have Stand United. That would be so upsetting. We want to make sure that doesn't happen, stuff like that. There's a ton of work. Right now, my personal enemy is Ghost Army bugs. So much shit that does not...
Is that the one?
Actually, no. I changed my mind. My enemy number 1 is Woodland Charm and Woodland Trinket.
Oh, really? Okay.
There's so many different things that like players expect to work with the clone that don't work with the clone, and I'm like, well, of course that doesn't work with the clone. It's an army buff, but obviously to a player, like, what the fuck does that even mean?
Right.
Well, why don't you explain then? Because I'm curious. Like, so what are the cliff notes of how these how the duplicates should interact with the board?
Well, how they should or how they do?
Well, I mean, I guess how they do is probably the best one, because that'll be what people are experiencing at the moment.
So in general, we save a snapshot of your board state during planning phase that we lock into place at the end of the planning phase.
Oh, okay.
And we duplicate it if you are the ghost this round, and we move it to somebody's board, we leave it on your board, bring their army in. And your army is like what units you have and where they are.
Okay.
It's a concept that exists somewhat separately from the player, but we lock it at the beginning of combat so that we don't have bugs like, for instance, summoned units just kind of hanging around mysteriously. Summoned units, by the way, also what Woodland Charm is doing.
Okay.
So the Woodland Charm unit isn't part of your army, and we have a bunch of things that go and look for, like, hey, let's give this buff to every unit in the army. Parenthesis, and therefore not the Woodland Charm clone, which to us at one point like seemed fine, because like, yeah, it's not part, I mean, by us I guess I mean me, but it wasn't something we were thinking about a ton internally, but then players are like, wait, why is, like, in general players aren't expecting like a summoned unit to necessarily benefit from everything. Like, they're not expecting their void spawn bug to necessarily get, like, you know, like the bruiser buff.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
But, I mean, like, okay, that's a misfortune. So, or like, that's a better example, actually, is like, that Woodland Charm clone is a Sejuani, is a Hextech unit. I can tell it's a Hextech unit because when I right-click on it, it says Hextech right there.
Okay.
why isn't it benefiting from Hextech like it's a Hextech unit? It's
okay,
like,
yeah, I can see how that'd be
Gotcha.
kind of confusing.
Yeah.
So would the fix be like to change this and you right-clicked on it, it says something like clone or something like that instead, give it some sort of... But then you get into the whole thing where I bet it's coded where if you've got that model on the board, that's what it shows up with when you right-click, and so now you have to add in special occasion sort of stuff, and yeah. It's very
We've been
complicated,
talking
very fast.
about some different solutions, some of which are just like, fuck it, make it not work with anything, and some of which are like, how can we actually make the Woodland Charm clone even more exciting?
Yeah.
So stay tuned to find out how and if we ever fix that problem.
Yeah, X amount of
Yes.
patches before 6.5 is done. Yeah. But that's the kind of stuff that's really fascinating to me is just kind of the real like nuts and bolts of like what it takes to make a game like TFT work, because I mean, when you look inside of it, I'm sure it is incredibly complex, and that's kind of just scratching the surface with that. Did you have anything to add on the augments front, Lynda?
No, I think Chloe covered everything, which is like implementing all. I think instead of 6.5 we like updated 80, but like prior to that it was like over 100. Implementing all of those augments was a lot of time, but then I think the more Herculean task was, as Chloe mentioned, just trying to figure out like the distribution system. And when we were doing set 6, I like had, you know, written a white paper. I'm using the white paper term. Like written a paper on like how we would use that system, and I set it up really loosely so it could like, you know, offer you 3 augments, put some initial augments in. And then, but what Chloe and JB actually did was that they had came together and been like, okay, this augment with this augment feels really bad, so we can't show you this if you have this, or if you're running this specifically, sometimes we'll show you this. And just like having to create a system and even tailor a system so that you could have all of those different complex cases was not something that was easy to do. And I think this is like one of the things that like tech designers do on the team. So I'm pretty sure Chloe wrote like multiple white papers on like the augment distribution system.
All right, that's
pretty
fascinating.
complicated.
I love hearing about that stuff. Frodan, any I was gonna say compliments, but anything at all you want to say
Sure.
about 6.5 augments, complimentary or critical? It's up to you.
Compliments. It's a great game. I like it a lot. Thank you for doing that. For questions, you know, I actually want to kind of step a little bit further back before we dive a little bit more into details and talk about your experiences as set lead, because actually, forgive me if I'm mistaken, is this your first time you are the set lead on TFT team?
Yeah, but I think prior to that I was pretty much working, or I started working on TFT since the ship. So
Okay.
I was like, I think I started initially helping more set up like the loot distribution system, and then I think during set 3 I started actually getting my hands in on champions, and then with set 4 I was helping build like a decent majority of those champions. And then for set 6, Giovanni, I was kind of like, Giovanni was the main set lead for that, and then I was kind of like the Chloe to his set lead, like the co-lead in a way.
Got it.
And for set 6.5, since Giovanni is now left to go join the MMO, I became the set lead for set 6.5.
Got it.
I thought you were gonna say
Not
to
going to let you
continue-
get away
oh.
without clarifying that you were also the co-lead on 4 and 4.5.
Oh,
I guess.
all right.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was there. I remember this.
That's cool. Four is still like one of my favorites. I love the chosen mechanic, and I don't care who knows it. Let's talk about the new item though in the in TFT. It is the Edge of Night. Replaces the Guardian Angel. If in case you're not familiar with it, you can read on the screen when the holder drops below 50%. They get stealth, they get untargetable, they shed those negative effects, and then they get some attack speed coming out of it. Very different item from Guardian Angel in some ways, but very similar in other ways. But to me, I really like this change because Guardian Angel seemed like it was becoming a problematic item, or not seemed like it was becoming. It's always been a problematic item as far as a lot of champions having ultimates that can be happening during the animation and all the shenanigans that causes. Was that sort of the reason for the change, or was there something else that went into that? I'll throw that one to Lynda.
I'm not going to answer some part of this because I know Chloe has prepared a spiel about Guardian Angel, so I'm going to let them answer that one, you know, when the time comes.
All right.
But I do know that one of the, like, it is, as you mentioned, DoA, some of it is, like, a lot of design pain in the butts, like, holy shit, Urgot's still shooting bullets while he's, like, there's some weird interactions there. And I think, Blizz, or Brad on the team, he actually did a really good job with Edge of Night in making sure that if you were somebody who, let's say, doesn't read the patch notes, or, like, is somebody who plays TFT casually and you still had thought this was Guardian Angel, the components that combine, it functions really similarly to Guardian Angel, where you actually want this kind of on your carry. And so even as somebody who hadn't played TFT for a while, like if you're somebody who's like that, you came back to it, you'd be still like, okay, this is actually the same as, or very similar, operates in a very similar space as GA.
That's actually exactly what happened to me the first time I built it, because I my first game was 6.5. I did not know that the item was changed, and so I built it and I'm like, what is this? I'm like, oh, thank goodness, it still kind of serves the same purpose. So yeah, that worked for me. So thanks.
Another really good thing this redesign did is, so let's say you've never played TFT and you've never played League of Legends and you don't know what Guardian Angel does. When you read Guardian Angel's tooltip, it's like, this unit comes back to life after it dies. So you're like, okay, so I put it on something, like, the expectation that it sets for you of who you're going to want this on is so much better with Edge of Night. Edge of Night says, you make somebody untargetable and they get attack speed, which is so clearly a, put this on a carry. Versus, like, if you think about Guardian Angel, you watch the way that it works in combat, eventually you're going to figure out, even if you have no idea how people use GA and League or, like, anything like that, you're eventually going to think, oh, okay, I want to put this on something so that it can, like, shed those targeting it, come back and do some more damage before it dies. It is so much easier to tell that just on first read of this item than it ever was for Guardian Angel.
Yeah, that's a really good
point. I'm so upset that we didn't think to get rid... If I could go back in time and replace Guardian Angel with this item 3 years ago, I would probably get, like, multiple years added back onto my life. There were so many bugs. Like, there's the, like, units casting through GA to me is like, oh yeah, I get that that's probably, like, confusing or weird or whatever, but...
Nico, GP,
there are so much more upsetting bugs that have happened that have been GA's fault, or the, like, weird edge cases we've had to solve, especially for GA, that are like, okay, so if they have a GA and they also have this in this order, okay, collector needs to give you gold, but oh, okay, it can't do that if it has Zillion and Guardian, but it needs to pop off in this order or that order. Sorry, I started whispering. I don't know if the mic was picking that up.
I think we heard a good amount of it. Yeah,
I'm so excited to have gotten rid of Guardian Angel.
Yeah. So as we look back then on the life and times of Guardian Angel, which one stands out to you the most as the bug that annoyed and frustrated you more than anything else? What was the worst one with GA?
Honestly, the thing that I spent the most time on was getting GA to work. The thing that is, like, wasted the most of my time cumulatively is like getting execution effects to not, like, proc Guardian Angel incorrectly. Guardian Angel has actually went through a couple of rescripts to try to make that be less of a nightmare, and it eventually was. But getting Guardian Angel to work correctly with stuff like Collector.
I can tell there's some trauma buried deep in there from Guardian Angel over the years. Yeah, so hopefully Edge of Night will help you recover over time. But like I said, it was a fun item. Probably good it's gone, though. And it's now that we've heard you talk about it, I'm very convinced that I'm glad it's gone. But let's talk about some new champions, because there's a lot of new stuff coming in to 6.5, and it's a lot of really fun stuff. The return of Ari being a great AP carry, Renata Glass coming in as a pretty new champion to League of Legends and being a pretty solid AP carry. I'm like an AP player from, like, set 1. It's just the way I've always gravitated with my comps, so I'm happy about these. Morgana falls into that slot as well in a certain, way. But then at the end of this, we've also got Silco, our first ever Teamfight Tactics exclusive champion. So, you know, anyone who's watched Gangly's awesome interview with Chloe heard a lot about Silco there, but I want to kind of revisit a little bit of that and hear sort of a little bit more of the story of how Silco came to be again, because it's really neat that we've got this thing in our game that the other game, that Summoner's Rift, the Summoner's Rift people don't have yet, or maybe never will have. Hopefully never will get it. We should get our own champions just for us, right? But Chloe, take it away. Tell us a little bit about Silco and the process of getting it there.
Silco wasn't a planned addition to 6.5 until after 6 had already shipped. It was not even like a concept that we had.
Okay.
And then once we started thinking about it, it was something that we were really quickly like, oh my god, this has to happen, and if we want it to happen, we need to lock Silco's kit like yesterday so that we can get, because there's going to be a shit ton of work that Art has to do to get this ready. We had to pull in artists from not TFT to do work for Silco.
Oh.
And
Interesting. So you're saying there's a Valorant Silco model out there somewhere, huh? Okay.
no, artists, not art.
Yes. Yeah, I'm just let me make my assumptions. All right. Anyway, continue.
You're allowed to believe. Sky's the limit. So getting Silco together was a very quick and urgent sort of process, but we were so excited about it, we knew we had to make it happen.
Gotcha. Awesome. So in the process of making this new champion to enter into TFT, what's that kind of like in terms of designing it? Because I think a lot of people are curious, because now you've kind of opened the floodgates. A lot of people are like, well, you know, which champions from different games, or even, you know, like DoA said, like cross universe, like Valorant, with the Radiant Knights stuff's coming through. Like, what's that process like to even be able to insert a new champion like this that we didn't see before?
I mean, one of the things that made this, like, getting Silco into the game and looking as good as he does possible was the fact that we were able to get the, like, Silco model from Arcane. It couldn't be used as is, right? There's like way too much detail in that man's facial expressions that we do not need for TFT. So that, like, the model needed to be edited, it needed to be exaggerated a little bit, like stage makeup kind of, right? Versus
makes sense,
camera movie makeup. It, like, features changed some to exaggerate him, make him look like a bit more into TFT. But the baseline of having that to borrow from Arcane was a big deal art-wise. And then, oh no, I lost my train of thought.
Talking about just getting Silco into the game, like everything that came with that process, yeah.
And then, of course, one of the needs on us as in game design was, like, we need to commit to a kit for Silco now and get it to art now so that they can create all of those things. Because normally, like, we need some VFX, but it's based on, like, so Ari's spell in this game isn't the same as any spell she has in, I was going to say real life, that she has in SR life.
Which is kind of like real life, but not
that's,
really.
Yeah, sort of, yeah.
For some people, it is their entire life.
It was my life for quite a few years, actually, yeah. So I agree with that.
But, you know, the orb VFX, the animation that she does to cast the orb, those things exist.
Yeah.
And if we wanted her to do something slightly different, you know, she has animations that we can use. She's got an existing this, and now we can borrow these VFX, these, like, SKM file, like, whatever.
Right.
And that didn't exist for Silco.
Got it. So if we want a new champion from Arcane in set 7, it would have to have been locked in yesterday. Is that what you're telling me right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we gotta get that shopkeeper dude from Summoner's Rift in TFT at some point, you know.
But I hate him. Oh, the one from Summoner's Rift.
Yeah.
The one from Summoner's Rift is fine. I like him. He's a pal.
Or just
the one from Howling Abyss.
Oh. Yeah.
He and I.
We don't talk about Howling Abyss anymore. Yeah. What about just a champion that's a pile of poros? Just like a big pile of poros.
That's a good idea.
Around.
We should do that.
That's
I want
right.
to be a pile of poros.
There you go.
It's like
that
a
one's
Voltron
free.
of poros.
That's right. Are you saying to bring back mech? Is that what I'm hearing, Dan?
Absolutely. I think I would
I'm down.
enjoy
I'm
it.
down.
I think I would have been okay losing to that as opposed to the Garen mech.
All right.
You know what? Actually, we should make a set where all of the champions are poros. I
Hey,
think
I
that
like
would be
that.
an
You heard it
Sell
here
very
first,
well.
everyone.
I
Yeah.
think we should make reverse little legend or reverse TFT where you just everything in the shop is a little legend. You're playing a champion.
You know, at
Oh,
some
I
point,
like
at some
that.
point,
Yeah,
there
yeah.
will be
Legends
enough
are what you
legends.
buy.
There's so many
Yeah.
little legends.
Wow.
Oh,
all right.
yeah.
So planning set 8
And then
already.
you.
So I have one champion related question for Lynda before we move on, because you didn't get to talk about the champions at all. But and feel free to follow up on this however you want. But why did it take us so long to get Alistar in the game? He's finally there, but what was the holdup?
I think it's like we tried a lot of things for him that just didn't work out. We
Okay.
actually tried to get him in for set 4 instead of Tom Kench.
okay.
Because he had a really sick Lunar Beast skin, and
Yeah.
we were like, oh, he's gonna be like a fortune, and then we looked at it, and then we looked at Tom Kench, and we're like, why are we trying to just substitute the same thing? This iteration of Alistar was actually something that was meant to be in set 6 as one of the Hextech summons. And similarly to Rammus, we were like, okay, we didn't want that to be like a Hextech summon because we wanted to, give Alistar his own thing and make him feel like special. And he still had the really sick, like, pulverize somebody smash spell. And for 6.5, we're just like, yo, let's revive him. So we revived him, and that is
Awesome.
why he is in there.
Cool. Yeah, I like that he does the classic Alistar combo. Like, if you play this champion, you don't know that combo, like, you have no business playing the champion. That's just, it's default, yeah.
And I would like to, say sorry to everybody who likes Rammus. We will try to find a way to put him in the game. So we are trying to do, theme stuff for, future sets, set A, and in every single theme pitch that I've created, I'm like, has Rammus skin, doesn't have Rammus skin, can put Rammus in, can't put Rammus. So I'm really trying.
There's no dragon Rammus skin, is what you're telling me.
Yeah.
Hey, if
very
the
disappointing.
art
Very
department can
disappointing.
make Silco, if you can make a whole new champion, you can make a dragon.
That's right.
True. We can
Rammus,
make
yeah.
Dragon Rammus.
Silco's
Yeah.
been around for less than half a year, and he's already in TFT. And meanwhile, Rammus
Yeah.
is crying in the corner. Is he the last champion that hasn't been
He
in
is.
TFT?
Yes.
Oh man.
So
Lynda
Rammus.
made a valiant attempt to get Rammus into this set, but
Yeah, he should be.
unfortunately,
He should be like a 7 cost. That's a assassin demolitionist with a mercenary trait that you can upgrade, and then just explodes the board. Oh man, Mort Dog already stole my punchline. after he destroys your entire board, you just hear the voice line.
I was gonna say.
It just
Okay,
plays.
okay.
Okay.
See, that's what
So-
that's what I was gonna guess. He says after you tell him he's not gonna be in the next set again, he just dejectedly says, "Okay," and that's it.
I
Shuffles
actually
away
have
sadly.
no clue what is in set 7, so I wouldn't pick it. But I remember back in set 4, we were trying to do when we were doing 4.5. I was like, Giovanni, there's ninja in the set. Rammus has a ninja skin, and he just looked at me.
does.
He was like, "You're
Sure.
nuts."
Yep.
Oh,
We'll look forward to Rammus. And speaking of looking forward to things, now we can look forward to who we're playing next in the game itself without the use of add-ons. And if you've been playing PvE, you can see there's a little cross sword icon next to the players that you have a possibility of playing against. And I really like this feature because we were already all using it anyway, essentially, with various trackers and things. But now it's just there in the game. You don't need the extra software. I like it. The only thing I kind of miss is that the tracker I was using shows you down the mini-map who you could play against next, and so I'm just used to looking down there, and so I have to retrain my eyes, but that's about it. It's cool to see that's in the game. anything to really add to that? Any of you really? I think it's just neat to see. I don't feel like there's a huge one, but unless there's something either of you want to say. Yeah.
Set after set, we see like small minor improvements like this. To the point where if you actually look back at like TFT set 1 and 2, the game UI even just looks kind of unrecognizable to a certain extent. You don't really see it because we as engaged players, year after year, you just adjust to it. But the game has really come quite a long way. So it's been really impressive to see yet more iterations like that without breaking the entire gameplay.
Before I was a tech designer on TFT, I was a UI engineer on TFT, so I remember all of those changes.
Yeah.
One, I think, so of course this is great for our higher level players who are already scouting, already often like really engaged players playing with a secondary app, whatever it's called, thing. I also think this is going to be really good for newer players who don't scout, because one of the reasons it's hard to learn how to scout is it's difficult to get that like positive feedback loop where you scout, you act on that information on your board, and then like you get a good outcome, or you learn, oh, this is what I need to do to position to respond to blah. Except in the late game, where you know who you're fighting, as it is now, just from like there's only one other person. I know I'm going to be fighting them because who else would I be fighting? Mm-hmm. But now there's that opportunity for that learning earlier in the game.
That's cool. Absolutely. Yeah. I like it. It just allows players to prep and make better decisions and theoretically better plays that are more entertaining for us on the esports side, but also probably a little bit more user-friendly for the people playing the game more casually too. So I think that's a great thing. But let's move on. We've talked about 6.5 quite a bit. We could pretty much go on like for the rest of the week, but it's time. It's time for the Augment section of the show, and that means it's time for everyone to share a historical fact that they would like to share. So, I don't want to make our guests go first, but I don't want to go first either. So I'm going to make Frodan go first. Frodan, you're up. What's your historical fact to share?
Sure. So I've been watching a lot of the Winter Olympics. I think, the Olympics is actually something that's been very big in my family growing up. And so it's been cool to kind of watch Beijing 2022 because I'm a big fan of snow sports as well. So this one is themed around the Olympics. Did you know that in the beginning of the 20th century, the Olympic Games used to have a competition for fine arts, which include things like architecture, literature, sculpting, painting, and music. And the art was, of course, supposed to be Olympic themed. And I thought that was really cool when I learned that back in the day. And I think that's a really fun historical fact and maybe something that's worth bringing back in some capacity. Because I think that would be awesome to see gold medalists in all these kinds of fine arts in modern day. Because it's come a long way since the beginning of the 1900s.
It's actually fascinating. I had no idea. That's very cool. You were very prepared. Wow. All right. Well, let's see what our guests have in store. Let's go with Lynda first. Lynda, what is your historical fact you'd like to share with us?
So one of my favorite words in the English language is this word called defenestration. And if you don't know what that means, it means just chucking somebody out the window. And apparently they just used to do that in the olden days whenever they were pissed at somebody. They just, like if you were somebody you were pissed at, like this king or this lord, you just like go to their place and chuck them out the window. And that was just a thing people did.
Wow. So that's where Game of Thrones got it from, huh?
Yeah.
Historical background. I see. All right. Chloe, what is your historical fact?
So I have ADHD. I have so much ADHD. I have a borderline unmanageable amount of ADHD. And I was researching recently. I don't know what got me started doing this. It was like ADHD and history. I just wanted to know. Apparently one of the first recorded medical observations of the symptoms of ADHD was from Hippocrates.
Wow.
And he described responds quickly to sensory information, has very little sense of self-motivation because they're move quickly from one thing to another, but he said it differently. very flowery language, at least in the translation of whatever he wrote that I was reading. But he diagnosed it as an imbalance of fire over water, which I want written on my tombstone grave. I think that's incredible. I love the notion of that I have an imbalance of fire over water.
That's really interesting. The competing elements. Yeah, that's kind of a cool visual. Neat. All right. Well, I guess it's time for me. So my historical fact. When I moved to South Korea, one of the things I really wanted to do was learn about the history of the place I now lived in. So I did a lot of research into South Korean history, and one of the things that was most interesting to me that I found out is that the Korean written language, Hangul, is the only written language in the world where they know exactly when it started and who created it. It was back in the early 1400s, and the king at the time wanted to create a written language that everybody could learn easily and use to communicate, because at that time they were speaking in Korean, but their written documents used Chinese characters. So he and some scholars at the time created this written language called Hangul and then distributed it. And all the nobility were really upset about this, because one of the ways you control the peasant class is to deny them the ability to read and write. But they couldn't stop them anyway. The written language was widely distributed, and now it is still used today, and they have a holiday every year celebrating the creation of their written language. So I thought that was just a really neat thing. I like languages, and so yeah, there you go. There's your historical fact from me, and that concludes it. That was a really fun segment. I feel like we learned a lot. That was one of the most educational segments we've ever had on this show, actually.
There you go.
But that was great. All right, well, time to move on. And to everybody's favorite segment, it's going to be Agree. This is the latest we've ever gotten to Agree, I think, at the show, but it's going to be a good one.
There's just so much to discuss this episode.
I know. This is a great episode. Let's keep it going. Our first Agree question. TFT should include TFT exclusive champions in every set from now on. We're going to go from right to left. So, Lynda, agree?
I think I'm going to have to disagree on this one.
Okay.
Because even though I think TFT exclusive champions are cool, if they happened every set, you might like almost expect them, and they would lose their sense of like TFT specialness. But I do think that in cases where we do hit upon like gold, or like just have like this nice coincidence of both theme and like, you know, subject matter, like say Arcane Season 2 comes out and there's like another really cool thing that people want, yeah, we should totally include the character.
All right. Cool. So a disagree, but a possibility of more in the future. I like it. All right, Chloe, agree or disagree?
Disagree, only because I don't think it's something we should be doing for its own sake. I don't think it's a box we should be ticking for this set. I think it's something that we should do, like Lynda said, when there's a good opportunity.
All right. How about you, Dan?
I mean, man, they should make 200 TFT exclusive champions per set, if you would ask me. But in all seriousness, I think that, yeah, I think that the two people who have explained it before me have done a great job. I just think that we already have so much things going on in TFT, and there's so many different ways that you can make novelty in a game like this, and there's so many levers that we can pull, that I think to just say that we should be doing this for its own sake is kind of a mistake, and actually an easy way to destroy something that's really cool. So I disagree with this as well. I don't think they should be, but it would be nice, and especially if they find a way to make it really good every single set. But I don't think it's necessary.
All right. Well, you know what? I'm going to agree. I'm going to agree with this one, because I don't have to be the one designing this stuff, so it's no more work for me. And also, I'm just being honest, all right? Also, I think there is a ton of the League of Legends universe, a ton of Runeterra, various corners that haven't been explored yet, and what better way to explore them than with an exclusive TFT champion every set. You always look forward to that one champion that's unique to TFT, that helps give TFT more of its own original identity, right? It's not TFT that's in the League of Legends client, it's League of Legends that's in the TFT client, and this will help put it there. That's what I'm saying.
If you're in chat,
there
if
you
you're
go.
in chat, do we have like art openings or design openings? Like DoA wants to join.
That's right.
Yeah,
I heard DoA say, "I'm so
Yeah.
excited to do the work." That was
I'll do
what
it.
I heard.
If that's my job, just making the individual champion, sign me up. You know, you got me on Discord, Mort. Just DM me. All right, so let's move on to the next one. Agree question 2. It's going to be Guardian Angel was a healthy item for the game. Lynda, agree?
I feel like functionally what it did, yes, but script-wise as a tech designer, no. So I'm gonna have to disagree. Yeah, that sounds about
the double.
right.
All right, the agree and disagree at the same
Yep.
time. That is an option. That is an option. Yeah. All right.
Guardian Angel was bad for my health, so it was bad for the game. How's that?
Hey, it's your opinion, which is your own subjective thoughts on it. So that's perfectly valid. A disagree from Chloe. Frodan, what do you think?
Healthy is such a hard word to describe Guardian Angel. I think it was iconic item for the game because Guardian Angel captures certain power fantasy from Summoner's Rift. The fact that you get to live twice, and if you're like this insane fed carry or just really powerful in general, you get to have another chance, right? And that can single-handedly decide and swing games at really pivotal moments. And I think that was captured extremely well in Teamfight Tactics as well. And I think that's something that people really underrate about the seamlessness between League and TFT. And as they continue to separate, would continue to be a design challenge moving forward. So I think Guardian Angel was much more of an iconic item. Was it healthy? Absolutely not! Are you kidding me? There's just so many things that I was very abusive about the game, whether it's going back to things like Ari in set 4, where she would launch her Spirit Bomb, and all you had to do was put her in the front line. You didn't care about anything else, because the idea was that she would revive and cast guaranteed and wipe out the entire board with multiple casts because of Mage. The fact that Kaisa can just, like, you can't do anything and interact with her right now, and then she just completely monsoons and blows away the entire board. Or just, like, nonsensical things, like, why are some champions firing through the Guardian Angel, like Urgot and his Purge, but Jhin and his Curtain Call is not, and Jhin has, like, this iconic shot that would be really epic through Guardian Angel, but also would be quite impressive. So, healthy? Absolutely not. Iconic and great and functionally, like, really cool design. It was great for that reason.
All right, I can tell Guardian Angel hurt you deeply as well. That was
absolutely.
That was very passionate.
You can ask esports law. I talked about it for 2.5 seconds. I'm like, they need to remove Guardian Angel from the game. I've said it so many times in private. I wish I said it publicly.
Do you remember the OG Ari was set 3 GP?
Oh, set 3 GP. That's what I was thinking.
Oh, yes.
Set 3 Nico.
Absolutely, 100%.
Star Guardian worked as a comp because set 3 Nico had could GA and then ult through it. So that was I mean, I have to disagree with this too, but I would like I wish I could have like a tiny agree check mark on it. You know, maybe even give me the both of them, because while I don't think Guardian Angel was healthy for the game because of the things that it enabled in a negative way, I think it also did enable certain things that were good, in that there were some melee carries that I feel like couldn't have really existed without Guardian Angel, because you get into melee, you die, the attention shifts away from your melee carry, and then they get to do some work. So there were instances of compositions that worked because a melee carry could have GA. You know, most recently, I think Yone is a decent example of that. So you know, those kinds of things will go away too, and I'm sure there's other, and the new item, honestly, Edge of Night helps in a similar way with it. But, you know, part of me kind of wonders a little bit if GA did a slightly better job of that. But for the most part, it's a pretty easy disagree. Let's move on to question number 3. It is TFT games take too long / should be shorter. Lynda, agree?
I think I disagree, because I think I really like how well it flows through the game. And like whenever I play TFT, I feel like, you know, I grab a cup of tea, I'm just down, I'm just vibing to play TFT. And I also do think that there's like other game modes to kind of hit that, hey, I want like a shorter game. Like, for example, if I only have like 20 minutes to play something, or like 20 minutes before my next meeting, I will go play Hyper Roll. So, and also maybe it's because I'm like not a very good TFT player, so I'm like, you know, top 7, that's not too bad.
That works.
So that's a disagree from me.
All right. Chloe, how about you?
Disagree. I don't know. I like how long they last. And you can always just lose if you want to leave.
That's right. You can just leave
true.
and
Just
give us
yeah.
guaranteed top 7. I like that.
There you go. How about you, Dan?
I mean, if you're going 8th a lot, TFT is not a long game whatsoever.
Exactly.
So that's 20-minute games. It's like shorter than Hyper Roll if you end up going pretty far in the distance. I agree, but I don't think it's actually as long as people who complain about the length of it are making it out to be. I think that TFT games, I think it's more about the second half of this. I think TFT could actually become a little bit shorter, and it wouldn't actually be worse for it. But at the same time, I think my opinion to this is actually continue to develop, as people know that I'm not. I still believe the very beginning of TFT could be improved. The carousel load into like the PvE rounds, I think there still could be improvements there. But we have been improving, and now it actually feels pretty good to have a little bit of a lull to build up. Because what I've started to realize is that one thing that TFT does incredibly well, and why it's become a worldwide success, is because it's such a good game at naturally telling a story. And every story needs a little bit of a preamble, right? And it needs a little bit of resolution at the end to kind of make everything feel like the proper epilogue was told. And so I think that right now the pacing feels great. I just I feel like it could be a little bit shorter though, because I looked and I played like 3 games, and I'm like, somehow 2.5 hours passed by, and I wish I was able to get more volume of games because I want to be able to try out new augments. I think honestly, okay, now I'm revising it again because of augments and how great the roguelike experience has met within auto battlers. It feels like I want to play more games so I can get more experiences and more stories. Therefore, being a little bit shorter would actually be, selfishly for me, like a way that I can enjoy TFT even more. So I think I agree, but it's a very, very small area.
Okay, all right. I agree with Chloe and how how they disagreed with this, because I think that there's a situation where you do have hyper roll. Obviously, you can just go and play hyper roll, right? So the regular game of TFT is this glorious battle, right? That you're going to dedicate 30 to 40 minutes of your day to go through and put every ounce of your brain power in it. Maybe you do that like 3 or 4 times, and that feels great, Frodan. I'm not here for some fast-paced, half-paying attention, hyper-roll stuff. I'm here for the long haul. So I'm going to disagree with this one. I like the games the way they are. I think the most it ever takes is like 40 minutes. That's not that bad, right? So for me, pretty easy disagree. I think you made some good points. You made some good points, too.
I do want to say one thing. I would say that TFT mobile experience could be improved a lot more if the game experiences were shorter. I think that is one thing that is important to note, because the TFT mobile experience burns my battery way too fast, and so I play like 2 games. I need to charge my phone and stuff. So that is the only caveat to what I said.
That's fair enough. All right, we've got one more agree question to go through, and it is: Augments should be a permanent mechanic in TFT. Lynda, agree?
I think I agree with this, but there's a but, and the but is I like what Augments do as a system because it checks a lot of the things that TFT is based off of. Like, okay, you load into a game, you have no idea what you're doing, but like Augments, kind of like in a way that Chosen did, kind of gave you some amount of direction. It gave you a chance of being like, oh, this game, only me, or like I can only play this for this game, so you really want to pick it, and it leads to a lot of replayability. But as to like whether or not the augment system is even like design complete, in the sense that like, do we even have the correct distribution model? What if we showed you 5 augments instead of 3? What if like Chloe, don't kill me for saying this. What if what if we could swap out augments, or like
oh no.
Yeah. None of the augments have a deactivate.
Yeah.
There's no way to deactivate the augments right now, so you'd have to add logic to all 180 augments. That was for how to stop working.
But just saying, like, that's what I mean by like, there is so much unexplored space with augments, and I think augments right now will probably there's like iterations that we could do on the design of augments.
I like
but
how careful
augments as like a concept should be a permanent mechanic in TFT.
See, this is good practice for ways to talk about the game that don't incriminate you for future things. You're doing well, Lynda. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And wow, how much faith does Lynda put in Chloe in terms of being able to put those systems in to swap augments out? That's really something to see. That's heartwarming. Chloe, what do you think? Agree?
I think, okay, if you asked me this question like 10 times over the course of a week, I would probably give you a lot of different answers, not even just give you both answers. Right now, my personal feeling is no, because there's something special about augments and how they are thematically connected to this set, what they mean for this set's thematic. The concept of like a thing that can change the way, like that can affect you as a player, that is something other than just traits. That kind of concept of this new thing other than just items, traits, champions that can be happening to a player, that I think is like, of course that should stay around. That's fantastic. But augments specifically,
All right, that makes sense. What do you think? What do you think, Frodan?
Yeah, I think that Chloe summarized it pretty well. I don't know if augments should be in every set in TFT forever. For one thing, I think that kind of similar to what we said before of like, should there be TFT exclusive champions? That would take a little bit of the novelty of it, because then the expectation is then because actually, just to take a step back, right? A lot of the source of people discussing things about TFT, they talk about augments and their balance or like their bugging it, all these different things that introduce because augments are in set 6. But I think that ultimately what it comes down to is that it was a really important layer that was added to create both fun and interesting decisions and kind of go back to what makes TFT really great, which is no two games really look the same. Even you do like re-roll the same composition, or let's say you play 20 out of 20 on the same profile, like your lobbies aren't the same. And so I think augments really feed into that, and I think that's what makes it such an interesting game that we can play thousands of times over and over. So I think ultimately the spirit of augment should be a permanent mechanic in some capacity, but in its current form, I don't feel like it's absolutely necessary. But I do like the fact that Lynda's bringing up different things, like how many augments should you be getting? The intervals changing. What do they even look like? Are they even completely skinned differently, right? Because basically, as Chloe mentioned, right, there's so many different things that you can do with items, champions, and synergies, but at a certain point, your eyes kind of glaze over when you start looking at that. But augments are always an aha moment where it's just like there's everything kind of clicks together, because it feels like this, like it's so appropriate that's called a hex core, because at its center, it is the core of your game plan that you're trying to orient around, and you're like building this sphere that continues to layer out. At its core is the augments, and then from there you attach your champions and your synergies, and then you add the items, and it's like makes this beautiful hex core cake, if you will. It has many layers and it's delicious. You want to eat again, and you're addicted because it's sugary, and that's exactly what they want us to do, and so we consume it. Capitalism. Stop me from talking. Your turn to it.
There you go. No, I understood and accepted everything you said. It's brain sugar, right? But the funny thing is, chat agrees with a 70% margin. That's a huge margin. And as we've gone through various sets in TFT, I've thought about this concept a lot of keeping the set mechanic longer than the set. And there's always reasons for yes and no. This is the most I've ever felt strongly that it's something that should stay in the game. Not as a hex tech augment, but as some sort of decision point that comes up at different intervals during the game that affects your board and affects your champions in some sort of way. If we know set 7 is about dragons, so make it like the dragon's decision or something, and maybe there's like different elemental trees you can go down where you pick ice at the beginning of the game, and then you get different ice things or something, or fire, so have that sort of choice interval happen through the game in a similar way, but have it be thematic to the set, of course. So hex tank augments, you can't keep them around, but that's the spirit of it, which a lot of us have been saying. Like I totally agree with. It's made the game more fun than I ever thought possible. I thought it was great already. This added another layer, like Frodan was saying, on top of it. So yeah, it needs to stay along in some sort of capacity. But that's that for agree. That was a fun one. Let's move on to esports, because this is going to be one of our longest shows ever, which is fine. It's like a mega show because there's a lot of cool stuff to talk about. But let's talk about esports real quick. Gizmos and Gadgets mid-set finale results are in. And Frodan, you casted this event over the weekend, so tell us about your experience, your reactions. It was an interesting one. I felt like we had a lot of names that people were less familiar with come up and make top 8 this time around.
Yeah, it's all 50-50 actually.
But, yeah.
When you dive in, there's like, half the field were established players, and the other half were people who've been trying to play TFT more recently, right? Set 6 brought a lot of new blood and encouraged people to really grind and really help people either, first time discover the game or, rediscover their love for the game. And I think what makes it great was just the ending of it. For people who didn't get to see, Kivix is one of the most interesting players to watch because this man does not follow the book. He will just say, okay, whatever I have, I'm just going to see if I can re-roll it and push it to its absolute limit. I feel like whenever I watch Kivix compete, like I'm watching him engage on PvE. Like these are things that you try out when there's nothing on the line, not when 20 grand and a spot in North American Regionals is being distributed out here. So this guy is crazy. It's so fun to watch. His last game was a Mutant Emblem Heimerdinger 3 with blue buff. That was Synaptic Web, which means that his mana is basically, like he basically resets and he just shoots machine gun rockets the entire time. Yeah. And it was something that he said he never even played it before. He heard it was broken one time and his friend swears by it. So he's like, yeah, let's just try. It's the last game. And then he won the tournament, like because he did that. It was so wild. That's great TFT, and I was glad that a lot of people got to witness it. And it was just a great tournament overall, so I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was a ton of fun to watch. Any thoughts on that tournament in particular, or TFT esports in general? We'll start with you, Chloe.
I don't always watch TFT esports events, but I did watch this one, and it was a very good experience. I was so glad that I decided to watch. Just a lot of really cool things happening. And I mean, obviously, I'm always going to remember looking away during when the Herald round was coming up, being like, this is a good time for me to spread the cinnamon mixture into my cinnamon rolls. Just gonna look away from the street.
Nothing interesting's gonna happen.
Back. Yeah. Oh. What just happened?
Yeah, that's right. He's dead.
Yep.
That was
DQA dying to the Rift Herald in one of those games. Yeah, that ended the game too. That was.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen that happen in a tournament before. Maybe Dan can remember.
It's happened to me in playtests internally.
Well, it happens to all of us once in a while, So it's good that we admit that, because there's no shame in losing to the neutrals once in a while, But in a tournament, that should not be happening. But it was pretty hilarious. Lynda, I'll ask you, what's it like to watch a competition as a developer, whether it was this tournament or a different one, and see people really push the game that you've been working on to the limit? Do you feel like you're constantly surprised, or do you feel like people haven't discovered the stuff you would have thought they would have discovered by now?
Just like a note in general, players always surprise. So this is something that Mort has said, or just like we can do all the play testing and theory crafting we want, before the set list, but on first day of PvE, we're discovering things that we wouldn't have never thought of before. And this set, I think it was actually DQA's play. I was like, this guy is a freaking genius, because he understood the underlying system of Enforcer, which was like the highest damage thing. He just tried to play around it, and there's a lot of like, I'm a genius, oh no moments that I have, personally playing TFT. And so that was really fun for me to watch on that. And I think it's like in a previous tournament, there was like people who were juggling thieves' gloves, and then like there was like another one before that where there was like a player who equipped Banshee's spell the moment a spell would have hit his carry and stunned the enemy carry. And like recently I was watching 6.5 PvE as Skara. He gets built different. He's like, oh my god, I can feel both Jinx and Vi, because they would turn off the traits for each other. So every time I'm watching like a high level tournament, it's like I'm seeing these new interactions that we, the devs, sometimes probably most likely didn't really think about as much, but like the players have just done it to that level. Also, kind of going back to the topic where Frodan, you were like saying how Kivix is like, hey, I heard this hyper roll thing was like a great thing. You heard it from a friend. I was like, DoA, is that you? Is that friend you? Are these like the back alley reroll comps?
Yeah, I'm
contraband TFT comps.
That's right. Forbidden techniques.
Frodan knows I'm like a dirty off meta player every set I can be. I was playing Space Jam Darius before it was cool.
Gosh, that's so fun.
But that's enough about esports. Let's move on to a segment that Frodan and I are very excited about. I'm sure you are too. But it's the one where the Riot people get to come on and quiz Frodan and I about our game knowledge, about things we may not know, share some little-known secrets from behind the scenes. So which of you, Chloe or Lynda, wants to lead into this segment and set us up for this? Lynda, okay, you're being pointed at. You have been elected.
For this.
Okay.
Luckily, this was kind of short. So when we were developing Augments in set 6, before we had nice pretty Augment art, we had designer art. And this is a series of Augment art from, both 6.5 and 6 that we have categorized in a way from easiest on the left to what we think is the hardest to guess on the right. And so your tasks, Twitch chat, feel free to join in, is to match the Augment art with the Augment.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so the first one...
This one should be easy, right?
Is Future Sight?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Future Sight.
That or hello, this is Banana. Like, is he calling somebody?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Got it.
Future Sight.
We got Future Sight. Okay.
Future Sight, yeah.
Awesome. Oh wait, are these all augments in Neon Knights or is it?
No, it's both 6 and yeah.
That's so hard.
Because I was gonna guess the penguin one, the 1 second from the left. My guess is gonna be Tiny Titans. Rodan? No? Oh, I think I got it wrong. What do you
This looks like to me something about like bruisers or health or strength. Maybe it's built different. The penguin. That's kind of what I think is like. This penguin is clearly working out a lot. Like nice pecs, good deltoids, strong traps, good obliques.
You were on a right track with like, strength.
Shrug it off.
Yep.
Bruiser.
Yep. Oh my God,
Yeah,
Fred,
okay. He's kind of shrugging, I guess. The penguin. Yeah, I could see that. All right, a little bit of a shrugging.
All right.
All right. So third one, I have like a list of augments up. Hold on, let me look through this. What's it gonna be? It's a group of. It's like a group
gang,
of people.
like a group of people ganging up.
The person in the front looks angry. It looks like kind of like I'm doing this, like I'm gonna beat somebody up.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. So, like, the first thing that comes to mind is that since it's a group of people, it's kind of like a syndicate thing. But I imagine that these are much more generic than, like, trait-based things, because I don't even know how to depict that kind of thing.
I'm going to guess Enforcer Soul. Because they're kind of, like, looking like they're ready to enforce something, I don't know. That's my logic. All I got.
Can we get a hint? This one feels so hard.
Okay, yeah. Give us a hint.
Hint number 1, the rest of these are from 6.0, or from 6.0, or they're from Gizmos and Gadgets.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
And
All right.
do you think that's enough, Lynda?
I think Frodan is on the right track that they're more general ones because these are early.
Okay, so let's see. Let's augments that include like groups or like things that happen. So like Stand United is one of them.
Stand United seems.
I mean, they are standing and they look like United, but it doesn't seem exactly like what it would be. So it isn't really inspired of that. It looks more like ganging up and like doing stuff. There's an augment called Dominance that's like the more you win with champions, or like when you have a group of them winning, that it looks like that. So that could be that.
Well, so how about this? Can you tell us what tier it's from?
Do you remember what tier? More? Are you in chat? What tier is this?
This is a prismatic augment.
It's prismatic.
Is it prismatic?
Unless I'm wrong about which augment it is.
All right, we do.
But I'm pretty
we do have
confident.
other rioters in chat
Okay.
saying prismatic. Okay.
Okay, it's a prismatic one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Band of Thieves.
I was gonna guess Band of Thieves as well because they look kind of mean, you know.
Yeah, that's kind of like what I would think.
That was my other guess too. All right,
I can't think of anything else.
I'm going with
Final
Band of Thieves. Final answer. Yep.
Fred, you want to change your answer? You want to?
No, I'm rolling with it. I'm rolling with it. Let's do it. Send.
This is not Band of Thieves.
Oh, what is it?
This is reinforcements.
Oh,
What's
okay,
reinforcements?
because it's people coming in.
Is that not?
What's
Yes,
reinforcements?
reinforcements.
God, is it not? Okay.
Wait.
Oh,
Reinf-
God, no, it wound up being called New Recruit.
Oh, this makes sense.
Okay,
All
so it's the
right.
force edition. Oh, it's Tactician's Crown.
Yeah.
I see. Okay, got it. Yeah, I see. Yeah, Kenwu in chat confirms. Okay, so we've got one more. Frodan, we got the first
Sad
one.
puppy.
You got the second
What?
one. It's like a sad looking dog. Yeah, with a medal though. Is this? So is this?
Metal?
Is it just is it just an incidental thing that there's like a you know, like a leash on the dog with like a collar and like a little thing, or is this a? Tell us what tier this one's from again. I think that's a good clue. It doesn't give too much away.
Or maybe it's just like because it's a dog, it's like underdogs, but I don't know.
Oh,
I
maybe.
don't know. Sometimes
It does
art
look
is
a little
like
bit sad,
beta
yeah.
art is like that literal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Underdogs. I like where you're going with that. In terms of
What else could it possibly be?
scrolling through things.
I don't know.
I mean,
My mind's coming up blank.
Exiles, because the dog looks like it's being kicked out of a house or something. I don't know. That's a sad story for the dog, but. This is hard. Okay.
Are we getting warm or is this? Are we kind of cold right now?
I guessed it.
Oh, I guessed it.
Underdogs.
Oh, okay, it's
Underdogs.
underdogs.
I
Oh,
knew
there
it.
is. All right, great. All right. Go us. Mostly Frodan.
Fred, you're actually like nuts at this game. Holy cow. Yeah, the third one does not count because we renamed it.
Have y'all ever played Slay the Spire? I know DoA has. Have you
yeah.
ever played Slay the
Yeah.
Spire? If you clear Slay the Spire and you beat Act 4, the very final act, you get to unlock the beta art for the cards. And they actually look kind of similar to this, where the beta art of the cards are just terrible, like MS Paint level of drawing. And a lot of times it was just like wordplay in the form of MS Paint, whereas like it would be very literal versions of it in a very unusual way. So this reminded me of it. And I feel like that's why I was able to guess a little bit closer.
All right. Dan, bring that multi-game knowledge to the fore.
That was super fun.
That was a
Thank
ton
you
of
for
fun.
bringing this one though. I like.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks for bringing this. It's always fun to see what the devs have in mind to break Frodans in my brains. I feel brain broken right now, but satisfied. Let's move on to the mailbag. That's right. We have a question, as if we haven't asked enough of Chloe and Lynda already. We do have from the questions that were submitted earlier in the week from Skip. We all agree that if you lose to bad luck, you got mort dogged. But whose name should we use when we lose to a bug, such as Yumi or Twitch?
Wow.
Like, so if there's a bug, who should we blame for that? Let's spread it around a little bit. And Chloe will go first. What's your answer?
So, I know
who should
you
we
said
scream
we're
into the
going
void?
long. Can I tell a short story?
Yeah, of course.
Absolutely.
Go for it. Yeah.
Oh, one day I come into the office, someone sent me a new bug, and oh god, there's a bug, and it's like, Woodland Charm Jace appears with the wrong form, and I'm like,
I saw that.
you know, I remember like set 1, set 2, set 3 bugs that were like catastrophically bad, so I'm like, oh no, who cares? Like I'm not gonna fix this. Forget it. I go home that night. I take Woodland Charm. Late in the game, I find a Jace, put him in, 2-star him. I pranked myself.
That's called karma. That's karma right there.
I am the murderer. I may not have broken this thing, but I could have fixed it. And I didn't.
It's like when a Spider-Man let the burglar run by and then the burglar killed Uncle Ben, you know? Same thing. With great power comes great responsibility, you know?
When I lose to a bug, I'm mad at myself. I have no one to blame but me.
That's actually true. Yeah, you are. That's true. If you lose to a bug, there's literally no one else you can blame, I suppose. Wow, that's a unique position to be in. Wow.
That's right. That's funny.
All right. Well, Lynda, what's your answer to this? Do you have, or I guess we didn't. So Chloe, would you say then that people should just yell Chloe into the void when they get hit with a bug?
Yeah, they have my permission.
Is that your answer?
Yeah, to yell at me if they lose to a bug.
Not at you, to just yell at me.
Internally at me, to be clear. Don't actually yell at me.
Yeah, we're not advocaling for cyberbullying or anything like that.
Because then Lynda would have to fight you.
Yeah, it's a rule.
We're just that's the deal. Yeah, we've heard. Well, Lynda, how about you?
I think everyone on their team has made their equal share of bugs. And the reason Chloe and I use the term murderer is because there was like a moment in set 5 dev where for some reason all of the champions' mana was broken and we couldn't figure out anything. Why? Because like nothing had changed it. And we like scrolled back through we were like, who's the murderer? What happened? Why do we have to rescript all these champions? Why are they broken? And then we scroll back through like, you know, the check-in change list. We find a change by like one of our devs. I'm not going to name who. And it says, trying to remove this mana thing should cause no problems. Enter. And we're like, oh my god, this person's the murderer. And so every time we try to fix a bug or we try to solve a bug, we think about it like a murder mystery. But most of the time when Chloe and I like team up to solve a particular gnarly bug, we're all like, both of us are convinced that we're the murderer. And just trying to prove to the other one, it's like, no, I'm the murderer. And then they're like, no.
It's like a game of yeah.
But I think
I see.
In general, the TFT team has all kind of contributed their equal share of bugs. So what you should do is send the bug report. That's what you should do.
Right. It's like
There's
Clue.
an imposter
Yeah.
among us.
Lynda at the laptop with the keyboard. Right. I see. Well, don't forget, I forgot to mention this too. If you're out there watching, ask a question in chat because Chloe and Lynda will pick one of you to answer that question, and then you'll win a $10 gift card. So I know I'm supposed to say that at the beginning of the segment, but I was just so excited to ask the question I forgot. So you can do it real quick. We'll give a couple minutes here. We'll ask one more question and give you a chance. Give you a chance to ask that. But one of my favorite bugs in League of Legends history, probably my favorite bug of all time, was like a decade ago now, over a decade ago, when Robot Amumu had a global laugh bug. I don't know if all of you remember this, but there was a point in League of Legends where if you played the Robot Amumu skin and like hit the laugh thing, like everyone on the map, no matter where they were, would hear it sounded like that. It was the most annoying, nightmare-inducing thing ever. And that existed for like a week or more. That people just pick a Mumu and global laugh the entire game. So that was one of my favorites. But
It's OP.
It is. Yeah, global laugh is OP, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
someone in chat was suggesting that it's still Mort Dog, but they accidentally typed W instead of M, so they said Wart Dog.
Wart Dog.
Which got me thinking,
Oh,
because
okay.
if Mort Dog were to wear a red hat with a giant
Oh
M
my
on
god,
it,
he's like Warrior.
exactly, it would be the
yeah.
evil version of Mort Dog with a W.
Wart Dog.
It's Wart
Yep.
Cat. And
Is
it's
that
a
like-
yellow hat, and so that's the evil persona of Mort Dog. You
His
can blame
brother,
that
Lort
person.
Dog.
And the cat is like the Yumi bug, right? So it all makes sense.
It's true.
That's
There you
true.
go.
It's brilliant.
Is Wart Dog are like the Wart Dog and Shadow more different?
Maybe.
Totally?
I said Wart
Well,
Cat
there's-
to make it different.
Sorry,
but
Wart
I'm down for Wart. I'm down for Wart Dog.
There's a whole pantheon, right? If there's a Wart Dog, then there has to be a Lort Dog and all that. Like it goes on and on, as we found from the Nintendo universe.
Like a George
this
Dog where
This is
he
so
wears-
appropriate in so many ways.
Shorts Dog.
Sure.
I'm gonna be out of a job tomorrow.
Now that
That's the last show. Sorry,
should be the reward of the battle pass for set 7. You get Mort Dog in jorts
Short Dog.
as a little legend. You're welcome. I just made you $1 million.
That's true.
That's right. That one's free. I guess we've got some questions in Discord. If you check that out and pick one real quick, we've got some good ones. Anything stand out to you?
Do you want to pick different ones, Chloe, or do you want to pick?
Well, you have to pick one winner. So this will have to be a decision by a two-person committee.
Chloe, ping in chat. Which one?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm a slow reader. I still haven't read them. Give me a sec.
That's okay. That's fine. We're waiting. The anticipation is building.
That's right. So for people who don't know, we take some of these, and one of our producers put them in a Discord chat to curate a lot of them instead of scrolling back in Twitch chat, which sometimes bugs out.
Oh, I like that one too, actually. Yeah. Okay.
All
cool.
right. Let's do it.
So we have a winner, and the winner is Boyces2 with the question: how do you pick abilities and cost for each unit in a set? That's got to be a huge task to try to assign all that. So how does that process go? We'll start with you, Chloe.
I think that we'll get a better answer if we start with Lynda, because she's
all right.
done it on more sets.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I'm trying to spread it back and forth, but yeah, we'll start with Lynda. That makes sense.
So for this, we actually, like, I think Mort did this analogy before where he said building a set is kind of like filling in a puzzle, is like kind of completing Sudoku. And in Sudoku, whenever you're like playing it, you always have some of these things that are already filled out for you. And so when we kind of have our own Sudoku board, the way that we pick abilities and cost is we pick of what's like what's the dreamiest version of this champion, or like what are ideas that we're really, really excited for. And we use those as like our points that we put on the Sudoku board, and they kind of fill out the rest of it.
Okay, interesting.
I think that's a really good analogy. One of the things that means is that sometimes, like, so we have a few things that we've chosen as anchor points that are like, okay, this is going to be a 5 cost with these traits. No follow-up question. That's just what's happening. Sometimes mean, like, as we start putting in the pieces in of, that means, okay, so this person should be here, this should be there. Sometimes in the service of the holistic set working together well, everything feeling good to play as a set, being properly interconnected, not having too many champions in a single trait, or in the single cost tier in one trait, things like that. Sometimes certain champions end up with, for instance, like, sometimes the fantasy of one champion is not as like well sold by the traits that they have. Like, for example, Camille is not an enforcer, even though like Camille is an enforcer. But that's because like the thought. Go ahead and for yourself, you can go through and do the thought exercise of like, okay, well obviously Caitlyn and Vi had to be enforcers for 6.0.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So Caitlyn just can't be, so Camille just can't be. Because, like, this trait can't be this powerful, can't be a 2-piece. It needs to be a 2-piece. It's kind of a utility thing. Okay, well, then it can't be that accessible, that easily accessible at that, sorry, I'm done talking. I don't have any more of a point.
No, that's interesting. Yeah, that answers the question, is that you have to consider not only the lore of the champion, like a lot of people are like, well, why isn't Blitzcrank clockwork? And you also have to consider the actual game mechanics themselves too, right?
God.
In a
clockwork as well.
Exactly. You can't you can't have all of this stuff, because even if it makes sense in a lore sense, it might not work so much in an actual game sense. So no, that's a great answer. Cool. This has been an awesome episode. We've gone a little bit long, so first of all, thank you so much to Chloe and Lynda for sticking around longer than any other guests have before on Teamfight Talkshow. That really means a lot to us and everyone else out there. And we're going to give you a chance for some shout-outs, some final thoughts before we end the show. We'll start with you, Chloe. Go ahead. Final thoughts, shout-outs before we finish this thing off.
I'm not prepared for this. Thanks for having us on here.
Well, we're happy to have you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Happy you could join us. Thank you so much. Lynda, how about you?
I just want to shout out to the team because even though Chloe and I are the only ones on the show, we have like a huge amount of supporting cast behind the scenes. Like we have J-Bach who advises us like in a mentorship sense. We have Mort. We have the live balance team that makes sure we don't, ship things that are wildly off scaling because the sets designers we're not sure how numbers work sometimes. We have like our wonderful QA team and like the whole artists who helped us make Silco. And last but not least, I really want to shout out to our players because you guys are awesome. And you guys, just keep making TFT better and just keep on exploring, finding these new interactions that make me feel really excited about working on the team.
Awesome. I bet it is rewarding to see that crazy stuff you've never, expected could be done.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. Frodan, final thoughts before we finish the episode off.
Yeah, it's always great to have, Riot super close with the community. And, I think as we get to know more members of the dev team besides, Mort Dog, it's been really great to meet you all. So thank you for taking the time. It's always very much appreciated. Final thoughts. I want to first thank Dog and Hafu for lending their house. They're not even home. They left. Actually, probably shouldn't say this, actually, but I'm just going to send it. They left their house unlocked for me just to let me come and do the podcast. And now
so if anything's missing, we know who to blame. Yeah.
Their poor pup Jubs, the mascot of the Underdogs Beta Arthur. So I have to go take her out in a sec. The second is that shout out to my wife. It's her birthday week. That's partially why we're here in Vegas. And instead of celebrating with her on one of the nights that we're here in Vegas, I said, hey, can I go do a TFT podcast instead? And she's like, absolutely, I want you to do that. So she's so supportive, and I want to say once more, happy birthday, Taylor. I love you, and thank you so much for supporting my dreams.
Wow, that's true love right there, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you so much to all of you out there for watching. Thanks, of course, to Chloe and Lynda for coming on what ended up being the longest episode, again, of Teamfight Talkshow we have ever had. This is one of my favorites, too. We've learned so much. It's always great to see, like Dan said, the developers from Riot being willing to come on shows like this, engage with the community. I've been in esports and gaming for over a decade now, and I have never seen a development team that's like this in tune with the community and this willing to be like transparent about how the game is made and interact with the community to the level that the TFT team does. I've never seen anything like this before. So don't take it for granted if you're a TFT player out there. It's very special. It's very cool. So we're really appreciative of both of you and everyone else on the team as well. Thanks to GiantSlayer for putting this show on. It's always a ton of fun to do it. Thanks again to the fans out there for watching. Thanks to Dan for being a great co-host as always. And that's going to do it. Great show. Thanks for watching. Everybody out there, go play some TFT, whether it's live or PvE. Stay safe. Take care of each other. Be excellent to each other. And we will see you all next time.